right, we are going to go ahead and get started. Before I begin this training, go ahead and raise your hand if this is your first time seeing the quick service point of sale or your first time using it, or I guess watching someone use it. Okay, perfect. Go ahead and lower those hands. Go ahead and raise your hand if this is your, I guess, if you guys are using this currently and if this is not the first time that you are seeing quick service point of sale. Okay, perfect. So since the previous seasons for some of my veteran users, we have added pins to our quick service point of sale. Pins are just a way for you to A, track your sales by stand or employee, and B, just a security level. So that way, if you've got a manager, you can prevent cashiers from refunding orders unless obviously that manager doesn't log out or gives out their PIN. It's just an added layer of security. We do have some awesome enhancements coming your way in the coming weeks that also will enhance the PIN functionality. However, in the meantime, if you have not already been exposed to creating PINs, I definitely suggest taking a look at our Help Center. I will send out the articles too on how to create PINs. The PIN that you will use is going to be a unique 4 to 5 digit code. It is up to you on how you create your PINs. So if you want to do it by bartender, then you can create it by that bartender. So the team member name, giving them a unique PIN. You can also do it by nonprofit group or by stand. So it's at your discretion on how many PINs you create and what kind of PINs you give out. We have the tools for you on our website that we will send. But I just wanted to put that out there early on into the training because we do get a lot of questions about, hey, how many PINs should I create? What would you guys do? It's up to you on how in depth you want to track your sales. If you're tracking it by nonprofit group, then it might help to make a PIN per nonprofit group. If you are trying to track sales by stand, so it doesn't matter what nonprofit group is in the stand, as long as you are figuring out big picture, what are my sales tracking by stand, you can do that as well. So the first thing I'm going to point out are the limitations that come with the pins. So in the past, you were able to update your configuration right there on that home screen. Notice that I have to have a PIN or approval code entered before I can do anything. The approval code, and I'm using my unique one, so please don't use mine. I don't think it's actually set up on some of y'all's sites, but it's not going to get you in on your device. So the approval code that I'm putting in, once I sign in, I have the ability to access this menu. If at any point you need to refresh configuration or sync network data, you will have to input your PIN and sign in. Our hamburger menu, which are the 3 lines at the top left-hand side of the quick service point of sale, honestly is going to be your best friend. The first part of the hamburger menu is going to be the menu. When I select menu, it's going to bring me to the point of sale menu. Before we move forward, I want to also put the disclaimer out there right now that I am doing this on a laptop device. This is not an E700 or an ELO or an A930. Depending on the product type that you guys have at your property, I am literally doing this on my computer, so the view is going to be slightly different yet very similar. So this is not a great representation of what your cashiers are going to see. You will see certain screens might have a borked looking view. You will not see that on the actual device itself. So in your menu, if you notice, everything is color coded. So on the top, you've got your categories. You've got blue, which in this case, it's going to be the beverage station. If I select coffee, it highlights yellow. If I go all the way to snacks, it's going to turn pink. Notice what happens when I select each category. It brings me through the menu, but if you can see the like with the like on the colors, this is going to be the quickest way to navigate the menu if you're going by category. So if you've got a cashier and maybe it's a specialty hot dog station, and instead of this saying food up here at the top right-hand side, maybe that says hot dogs. They can tap on hot dogs and it'll bring them to all the hot dog options. Obviously, this is not a hot dog menu, what we're looking at right now. But if you notice the color coordinating, this is going to show you what category you're in. The other option you have at the top right-hand side is this magnifying glass. The magnifying glass is going to give you the ability to search. So if I'm trying to purchase a water, if I spelled water right, if I type in water, it will show me all of the available options. Notice how everything is grayed out on the screen with the exception of my bottled water. If you have a large menu, this will be the quickest way to find an item if you are not familiar with the category that the item lives in. So if you are a bartender and you've got a large liquor list, you can either go to the liquor section. So pretending this says liquor, it'll show me all of my options, or you can use the magnifying glass. And if you just type in, and I know I'm not going to have vodka, so in this case, I'm going to type in beer. If you just type in beer, it'll show you all of your beer options. And once again, notice it just grays everything else out that does not have the related name. Once you're done searching, you can select done. The other ability you have with our menu is to add items with modifiers. So an example of this would be, okay, customer wants to order chicken tenders. Maybe they want to order a side of French fries for the additional $1.50. You can add that to their order immediately. The other thing you can do is add their sauce type. So maybe the customer wants chicken tenders. They don't really want to get the French fries, but they definitely want ranch. You can add that ranch sauce right there with the order. You can even update the quantity. So maybe there's 4 people in the party that want chicken tenders with ranch. Once you've updated those quantities, you can hit done. Maybe then I also have a customer that wants chicken tenders with a side of fries and honey mustard on the same order. If I hit done, notice that you see chicken tenders twice. The difference between these two orders are going to be your modifiers. So when you are doing production, with a raise of hands, does anybody use expedite for fulfillment? And if you don't know what that means, I will explain it momentarily. But if you use expedite to have your orders print for your cashiers to fulfill, this is going to be something that is very important to hear. Okay, perfect. Go ahead and lower your hand. Raise your hand if you've never heard of expedite. You have no idea what I'm talking about. This is the first time you've ever heard of that term, or that app, I should say. Okay, so expedite is our order fulfillment app. It's an app that is downloaded onto an iPad, and basically for my customers that want to treat their concession stand or their food service operation similar to a restaurant, where your food items are sent to a printer to be fulfilled, and then they are bumped or moved through different states. So maybe the order comes in, goes to a being prepared state. The person in the back prepares the chicken tenders with the ranch, the cashier fills up the soda, the order is ready for the customer to pick up. This is going to be the tool that the stand uses to notify the customer that their order is ready by moving that order to ready, but it's also going to give them an idea of what that customer ordered. So instead of not screaming, instead of telling the person in the back, hey, I need a hot dog and a chicken tender, and have that be brought into the pass-through or handed off, now that expedite process is printing that ticket. It's showing the back of the stand what's coming in, so they know what to anticipate and prepare for. If you're not using expedite, that's totally fine as well. Your orders would just go straight to close, but I wanted to kind of highlight this little part right here. So notice that I have chicken tender orders twice. I've got ranch as a modifier, and I've got French fries for an additional $1.50 and honey mustard. What I want to point your attention to is the quantities in each square. This is going to be how it prints. So if a customer orders 4 orders of chicken tenders with ranch, the ticket that prints is going to show a 4 with chicken tenders and ranch, just like this. You're not going to see chicken tenders printed 4 times with that ranch modifier. It's going to be the number 4 and then the quantity associated with that order. You can also modify your order. So maybe you accidentally hit ranch. So you could tap on that order and you can adjust that sauce if needed. So maybe the customer said, hey, no, I want barbecue sauce. Okay, and this is going to be obviously before you cash out. So maybe you're reading the order back and you're like, hey, yeah, four orders of chicken tenders with ranch. No, I want barbecue. You tap the order. So you're going to tap on chicken tenders with the quantity of 4. You're going to adjust that sauce and you're going to hit done. And that's going to be how you can adjust the items. So you don't have to worry about removing all of the items and then re-adding them back in for a simple miskey. Same thing if you read it back and you say, okay, for the, French fries are $1.50. Oh, I didn't know that. I don't want them. Tap on the order, remove the French fries, hit done. The order is going to populate on the left-hand side of your screen. If you have other items, so maybe I have candy, a ham sandwich with a fork and a knife, sure, sounds fun. Notice the difference in color. So the ham sandwich, also spelled wrong, I must have built that one. And the chicken tenders are the same color because they fall under food, where candy is pink. If I ordered a beer, it is orange. It helps you identify what category each item was in as well. So when you're going through, you can see what category it was ordered from. But for you, for fulfillment, what your big focus is going to be is the item name and the quantity. If there is tax being collected, so raise your hand if you do add-on tax. Okay. Is anybody tax inclusive? Raise your hand if you are tax inclusive. Okay. So if you are add-on tax, you are going to see a value right here for your additional tax. So if your tax is 6.5%, that's going to be where your tax represents. If your tax looks off, so for example, 44.14, and I'm only getting a $3.64 tax, but my tax rate's 12%, something's probably wrong. And it likely leads to configuration in Canopy. For my point of sale customers, I highly recommend always going through and just ringing in each item. So I'm clearing out my cart by hitting the X. But if I add my soda, and I'm just going through the quantities, I can see the tax that's being applied. So if you ever notice that you have tax that doesn't seem accurate, you want to do a sanity check for yourself before you go live, because the last thing you want to do is sit in your controller's office and say, oh yeah, I forgot to mark the item as tax. I've been there. It's not fun. But it also helps you identify if you missed anything on the configuration side. Everything for point of sale, and I'm just going to move this little Zoom box really fast. Everything for point of sale can be configured in Canopy. So when you're in your Canopy account, this is going to be your content management website. This is going to be where all of your items are created, all of your, sorry for being logged out here. All of your pricing, all of your categories, everything. So I'm going to go to F&B and I'm going to go to F&B locations. We have documents I'm going to send after this training, but this is going to be where you can price check yourself. So you're practicing, you're ringing in all of your new items that you just created. And you realize, something's not right. Maybe you're missing a modifier. Maybe the price isn't right, or maybe you're not collecting tax. When you go into Canopy, this is going to be where you can adjust it. So if I click on my point of sale menu and I go to my items, I'm just using the point of sale from the drop down. You always want to make sure you're in the right menu. I can look at all of my items, and if you notice right here, add-on tax is not checked. So an item with a value like Cherry Coke, for example, where the tax should be applied, is not being applied. You want to make sure you check these boxes to make sure that they are accurate. Sometimes customers might accidentally check tax inclusive when they're supposed to be add-on tax. So you always want to double check your configuration if you find that there's something wrong. The other thing you can do, so say the ham sandwich is actually supposed to be $10 and not $5. Maybe for some reason you accidentally typed in the wrong price point. Tax is supposed to be applied, and you want to update this. So I've updated the price of my ham sandwich. We'll reference back really quickly to the ham sandwich in the point of sale. Notice it's $5. Now I'm changing it to 10. This is going to be the quickest way to change the price of an item if needed on the fly. Long term, I suggest looking at re-adding the item in for reporting purposes. You do not want to manipulate an item's data for the long term in multiple menus. But for one menu, maybe the ham sandwich is something that you only do for certain events. It would be worth updating in the actual menu itself. So we saved our changes. I'm going back to my ham sandwich. That's now $10. It's still $5 on my menu. What gives? I don't understand why it's not working. The reason why the change has not pushed through is because you don't want to mess up what's in production. So even though big picture, that ham sandwich needs to be $10, if your cashier is already in the middle of a transaction, so I'm doing a transaction right now. Oops. I'm doing a transaction right now, and you just push an update through. The last thing we want to do is update a live transaction while the cashier is finalizing it. Because if I'm the cashier and I'm saying, okay, you owe me $17.17, and then I go to have somebody pay and the price changes, I forgot the tax when I read that, sorry. It's not going to be a positive guest experience. So that is why it does not update automatically. So I'm just going to cash this out and move this to complete. I'm going to hit done on my receipt. And now my ham sandwich is $10 because I've completed my existing transaction. Now, if you update this real time, so doors are about to open, not a customer has arrived, the ham sandwich is still $5 because we haven't gone through a transaction. I do not advise just making a transaction to push it through. All you need to do, and I highly recommend, so I have a troubleshooting guide that I've created that I highly recommend printing and having in a concession stand, but always recommend to your cashiers, even if you know you're not pushing a change through, you never know when somebody will say, oh yeah, I refreshed the point of sale, we're good, but they might not have. Always recommend your cashiers hit this hamburger menu and they just refresh. That's it. And any changes that needed to go through are going to go straight through. So make it a habit. Our point of sale will refresh. It will push those updates through. If you're mid-transaction, it's not going to do that. But if you haven't started for the day, just go ahead and do a refresh. Nothing will hurt. It'll still do it. We did have an enhancement recently go out this week that will help with that. But you always want to make it a habit for your team members or whoever's running your concession stand just to go through and just casually refresh. That's it. And if you really want to, and this doesn't hurt anything either, you can have them sync the network data. And that basically is a hard refresh. So the refresh configuration, that helps refresh if you've got a printer plugged in, menu updates, changes, but you can also sync your network data too. So if you want to have them do both, that never hurts. But I highly recommend ingraining that in everybody's head, because that is going to be the easiest way for you to be successful if you do any last minute price changes. Because even though you might send a radio call out 5 minutes before doors, hey, everybody, refresh configuration. If somebody doesn't catch that radio call, it's better to make sure that they have this trained and almost as if it's a muscle memory to refresh their configuration prior to placing their first order. All right, so now that we've looked at the quick service menu itself, we've also looked at the canopy aspect of it, where this is where you can update your price. So I'm just going to update my price back to $5 just for fun. I'm just updating it. We're going to refresh. I might have refreshed before it's saved. Yeah, I did. Make sure it saves, yeah, before I make any more changes. Sorry, I had to resave it really fast. So now my ham sandwich is still $10. Let me find out what I did. We'll go ahead and resync this. This is probably a me issue. So if you find an issue like what we're seeing right now, where that ham sandwich didn't update on the quick service point of sale, the next step is making sure that change went through. So I updated it, I saved it for $5. I was in the right menu, and I'm going to go ahead and update it. If you're noticing that it doesn't change, which isn't very common, honestly, I hate to say this, but I'm going to equate this to my internet connection because unfortunately it's not the best. You can also log out and then log back in. Okay, so this one, I will look at myself. This is not expected behavior. So this is something that I will take a look at after this training. Traditionally, when you update a price, it goes through and you'll see that change. So we'll go ahead and just for sport, close it to cache. Okay, so this is something I need to look at. So this is a change that might not have been properly saved. So I do apologize for that. That is not normal. It's not very common to see. So since we've gone through the menu, the next thing I want to point out is orders. Before leaving for the evening, you want to make sure your orders are in sync. So the orders in this location are out of sync. I actually turned this off because I want to give you guys an example of what happens when your order is out of sync. So if I hit sync orders now, it's not going to go through because I turned that setting off. But when you go into your point of sale at the end of the night, you want your orders created and your orders synced to match up. So orders created for me was 2 and orders synced for me is 0 because once again, I have the stand turned off. If you run into this issue, the first step is you sync the orders. Nothing syncing. Why is that? The next step that you're going to take is you're going to tap on the order. So notice that I have this turned off. That's where I said I disabled it. I had the stand completely turned off, which means that my orders aren't going through. So what I need to do is go in and turn the stand back on. But before I do that, this is going to be something that you want to look at if you're noticing your orders aren't syncing. So even though your total revenue is $29.24, if it's not syncing, if you go look at Freedom Pay or Data Now, you're not going to see anything. When you run into this issue, the first thing you're going to do is tap on one of the unsynced orders, send us a clear picture of what you're seeing. So we want to see this error message. We want to see the order number. We want to see exactly what you're seeing. And then our team can go and figure out how to push those through for you, or we can direct you in the as far as what your next steps are going to be. So to recap, this is a clear indication your orders might not have synced. You want to make sure it syncs. Sometimes if you do not see an error message at the bottom, so let me go into one of these. You want to make sure you actually have a stable network connection. Even though it shows my network here, you want to go ahead and do your refresh configuration to make sure your device is online if it's something that you suspect might be internet related. If you notice that there are common items, so in this case, my ham sandwich is a common item, but because I have this turned off, I already know what my issue is. But if you're trying to get to the bottom of what might have happened, look for common items. However, if you see how it also will auto sync, it'll automatically try to sync if it's got an internet connection, but if it can't sync, that's going to be why. But if you notice a common item that is related to the sync issue, let us know too, and we can troubleshoot that for you. I don't expect you guys all to be Magnum PI and go in and figure out what's going on with the point of sale, because obviously there's certain things you can control and there's certain things that we can at least help alleviate some of that pressure from. But what we need to help you is this exact information, the clearest picture you could possibly send. I can't tell you how many times I've had to zoom in and try to figure out what the error says, the order number, and as many examples as you can provide. I don't want 100 examples. I think that's too many, but at least 2 to 3 if possible. The other thing we're going to need, I'm going to hit my hamburger menu, is the debug info page. This picture, once again, if you can send this to us as clear as possible, this helps us get the information on the terminal. So if I have a customer who's got an ELO that has items out of sync, I can look at the device ID. Now my device ID is going to look different than yours because I'm on a laptop. So this is expected for me because I'm not plugged into a card reader or anything. But I can go to this device ID and I can start researching what's going on with this computer. It's extremely important, like I said, to send this to us clear. So I'm going to leave this pulled up just for a minute so you can kind of take a look at this debug page. If you guys have the ability to screenshot, I highly recommend taking a screenshot of what this looks like. So that way, when our team says, hey, you know, if you happen to run into an issue, hey, send us a picture of the debug page. You know exactly what page this is, because it can be very confusing because on the ELO itself, there are a couple different screens. Same thing with that PAX E700 and that A930. So I'm going to give you a minute to just take a screenshot if you want, or just review that page. Okay, before we move forward, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat and I will happily answer. You can ask questions throughout this entire training. Even though this is a webinar, there are multiple people that are on here, but it never helps to ask a question that somebody might be thinking. Okay, I don't see any questions coming through. I'm going to give it another second. Okay, we are going to go ahead and move forward to the next part. I'm going to go ahead and go back to this orders page. Okay. So once again, my stand is off, which is why these orders aren't syncing. So another example, if we go into our hamburger menu again, is configuration. So say that you go to your computer, maybe you've moved a point of sale from one location to another, and you go to log in and you realize, oh my goodness, I am not on the right point of sale menu. If you tap on configuration, you're going to want to select concessions POS. If I were to do kiosk, I will turn my computer into a kiosk, which will take a lot of steps to fix. I can show you really quick what that looks like. It's probably going to block me because we did do some enhancements that help prevent this from happening. So one of which is that my kiosk menu must be available. I currently don't have one built, so I won't be able to proceed. If you do have if you do have kiosk menus, I can get a kiosk example pulled up at the end of this training if we have time to show you how to troubleshoot kiosk. But in the meantime, concessions point of sale is going to be where you live for quick service point of sale. The next step is hitting next. Here you can switch your menus. So if I wanted to, I realize, oh my goodness, I'm not supposed to be in the Fan Zone Sports Bar. I'm supposed to be in Food and Beverage Express. Tap on configuration, tap on concessions point of sale, and then select your menu from the list. After that, hit done. You are going to have to log back in. So I'm just logging back in. And now my proper menu is pulled up. That was stressful. But this is going to be how you can change your menus. If for some reason you find that when you're switching your configuration, you get stuck here, so it doesn't let you move forward, I'm not going to hit done because it's going to let me. Shoot us a note at the Help Center. Likely there's a reason behind why it's happening, whether it's the menu that you're choosing or we might have to take a look at the device. The minute that you start seeing that happen, shoot us that note. If you guys are mid-event, on the troubleshooting guide that I send you, there are some troubleshooting steps you can take. However, I always recommend shooting us a request. Even though right now our help desk is help@VenueNext.com, which is obviously an email, we are a live team. So between myself and the rest of my team, We are always monitoring and paying attention to the channel. And if it's not us, it's about 40 other individuals that have live access to see live tickets from the CEO down. So if a new ticket comes in, I'm not gonna lie, I've had the CEO be like, hey, what's going on here? And start looking into it just as much as I'm looking into it. So even though email does not seem like the best line of support to start a request, I can more than assure you that we get our tickets, and within 3 to 5 minutes, we do our best to give you at least a first response to let you know, like, hey, we're on it. And even though sometimes it might look like it's actually automatically generated, it's still a live person that is looking at it, asking questions, going into your environment, potentially going into your terminal and figuring it out real time. You can tell that it's real because if I send it, everything is misspelled. Sorry in advance for that. But in the coming weeks, right now we're targeting early fall. We will be enabling phone lines and chat in the support portal. So not only will you have the ability to send us an email request, but you will also have the ability to dial us up and talk to one of our representatives. If you ever, in the meantime, leading up to this launch, have an urgent request, note that in the ticket it's urgent and provide a phone number. We will give you a call and work through this with you real time, because I understand in the sports and entertainment world, 20 minutes is the equivalent to 2 hours. And our team will do whatever we can to try to help you the best of our abilities. So if it's an urgent issue, say, hey, look, this is urgent. Can somebody give me a call? Provide that phone number, and one of us will give you a call as soon as we can. So I'm going to go ahead and hit done here. Like I said, log in back in. Anytime you switch a configuration, you hit done. Right now, there is not a way that the point of sale will auto log you out. So if I left this hanging out, let me go back to menu. If I just left this up and I went for the rest of my day, maybe I was a manager, I did a refund, or not refund, I did some kind of updates for my stand. Maybe I'm checking the terminal before my nonprofit group comes in. I leave this logged up. It's not going to log me out automatically. I'm gonna have to manually log out. So make sure that if you are going into the terminal, especially if you're a manager, you're logging out before the stand lead or whoever is running that location comes back. You also want to leave a note for your team. Hey, log out. Log out before you leave for the night. Log out, log out, log out. Because the last thing you want is for, well, I'll use myself as an example because this is actually a real story. We were running test orders. I left my user logged in, didn't log out. That was bad. And next thing you know, I made $13,000 on a day that I wasn't even in the state. So you want to make sure that you log out so that way your reporting is accurate. We leave the screens up from a quick service perspective because it's super cumbersome when you've got a long line and you're logging in and logging out, logging in and logging out. We do have ways to optimize logout, so eventually it will log you out if it's not in use, but that is coming in the next, honestly, probably a couple releases. There's a large testing period that we do when it comes to point of sale. But in the meantime, you want to make sure you're logging out if you need to log out. We've gone through what refresh configuration does. If you run into printing issues, you always want to refresh config. Raise your hand if you've got a point of sale where the printer is attached directly to it. So it's not hooked up to Ethernet. It's a USB that's plugged right into that computer or point of sale. If you have one of those printers and it stops printing, the first step you want to take is checking your wires, make sure it's plugged in. Even if it looks like it's plugged in, just push on it. The next step is checking your paper. You want to check your paper, you want to hit the feed button, you want to turn the printer on and off, and then you want to hit refresh config. If it still doesn't print, reach out to us as well. This is also in that troubleshooting guide I'll be emailing out. Like I said, I recommend, it depends on how much information you want to give your stands, but I definitely recommend taking a look at it. And if there's information that you want to provide the stands, print it out, laminate it. I've got somebody that puts it in a folder, then puts it next to the stand lead information. But that'll help you real time during an event if you run into an issue like the USB cord accidentally gets unplugged from the printer and it's not printing. So it just gives them the ability to troubleshoot the issue before you can get there. The last thing I'm going to show you, obviously we talked about sync network data. We always want to try to refresh the configuration in sync as frequent as we can. Well, not frequent, but before an event. The last thing I'm going to show you is I'm going to log out of here, is Canopy. So in Canopy, I'm going to go to F&B locations. I'm going to go to point of sale. Let's go to this point of sale. Even though in F&B locations, this all says on and available, I'm going to tap on point of sale. You always want to verify if you see, if it feels like something's not working correctly, verify your stand is on, because sometimes you can see this happen where somebody accidentally turned off the point of sale. And kind of going back to my example earlier, I turned off the point of sale, my orders didn't sync. This is what would happen if that was the case. Sometimes it's not going to give you this little icon that the stand is off. Right now it will, but if it's done in the status app before you can catch it, because it takes about I would say about between 6 to 8 minutes for it to update. All of a sudden you're seeing this error. You haven't seen status app update, check inside here. You also want to make sure you're in the right drop down. So I'm putting this on. I'm going to update. You also want to make sure with your menus that your point of sale does not have business hours or order ahead hours. There's no reason for them to happen, to have these hours, because it's not supported. So leave this empty. I had a customer put business hours in for their point of sale and it blocked ordering. So you want to make sure that your point of sale does not have business hours or order ahead. So if you start to see something adverse going on with point of sale, obviously reach out to us first. We'll have the entire team start looking at it. I can more than assure you of that. But if you're sitting in front of your computer and trying to troubleshoot it, check your business hours. Make sure that somebody that was maybe setting up business hours didn't accidentally put the order throttling or business hours in under the wrong service type, because it's very easy to pick the wrong menu. And it could be a simple oversight. Maybe I thought I hit concessions, I updated it because I'm in a rush, I hit update and it'll automatically show me. I'm just hitting update to show you. It might not refresh it for me. It'll automatically show you the top option whenever an actual update goes through. I haven't done an update, but it would default to delivery if it did, because it will refresh it. You want to make sure that you don't put business hours in. The last thing I'm going to do is show you guys a kiosk. So let me put myself into kiosk mode. Just give it a minute. Feel free to drop any questions in the chat while I do this. I'm more than happy to answer questions. If you have any questions that you don't feel comfortable asking on this webinar, I can absolutely set up time to have a conversation with you. Or if you want to email your account manager, we can work together to get you the time that you need to get any questions that you have answered. So I'm just going to go ahead and put myself into kiosk mode. Just give me a moment. While I'm putting myself into kiosk mode, I do want to point out one thing. Raise your hand if you've ever seen this QR code on your point of sale. If you hit done and it doesn't go through, chances are the device hasn't been registered. If you scan the QR code, it's going to ask you to put in your credentials. The credentials you're putting in are your Canopy credentials, but, well, first, before I move forward with that, raise your hand if you've heard of the Devices app. Okay, raise your hand if you have not heard of the Devices app. For my users that have not heard of the Devices app, if you are a Levy person, or I guess employee, you want to open a Sharewell ticket and request access to the Devices app if you're going to be the point of sale champion. Do not give everybody access to the Devices app. So I would not recommend, and obviously operationally, this is your choice. I would not recommend just giving this access to all of your supervisors, because it also gives you access to all of your devices and configurations for the property. But if you have access to the Devices app, when you scan the QR code with your camera, which I just got a new computer, so I don't have everything set up for me to plug it in to show you on my phone. You'll log in with your Canopy credentials. So your username and password for Canopy, and you can register your device on your computer real time. So you don't have to worry about finding somebody or sending in a support ticket to get help, especially if it's during an event. Now, you can also send a picture of that QR code to help@VenueNext.com, and we can register it for you if you do not feel comfortable having access to the Devices app. We recommend at least one person from each property have access to the Devices app, because it helps you guys whenever you run into a real-time issue to help troubleshoot it. This is going to be where you can configure your Freedom Pay or your Shift4 payments processing information. But it's also going to be a great resource to set up new terminals and new configurations if needed. So I actually do have a way to show you my phone. So I'm setting that up right now. Just give me one quick moment. It's being just a little finicky with me. Okay, so it's actually not working for me. So in the Devices app, you scan the QR code. So I scan it with my phone. I log in with my Canopy credentials, and then I just select the organization I'm with and then my venue. The venue is going to be the venue that the device lives in. So if you've got more than one venue, then you're going to pick the venue that the POS lives in. So if it's in the stadium, it's in the stadium. So now that it's registered, it'll automatically go to this page, or you'll have to hit done. So then if I hit kiosk, it's still not letting me go into kiosk mode because I don't have it updated in the Devices app. But when you go into the kiosk, let me update my configuration to make this happen, because I want to show you how to troubleshoot the kiosk before we log out for today. So I'm just going in the device manager, and I'll show you this right now. This is going to be all of the computer configurations that you have. So this is going to be why I recommend not giving everybody access, because if somebody makes the wrong decision or isn't comfortable and makes the wrong change, it could affect your environment. So in the Devices app, you'll also see what's registered and what's pending. So pending registration, this is going to be that you scan the QR code to get access. A lot of these would be from testing. If you have a large UUID like this, this is a laptop device. This would be an ELO device. So if you're ELO, you should see a letter and then numbers. So these are all of your registered devices. You can also search. So I'm going to go up here. So my device is 530CC3, which is what it ends in. So you can search by going in here. You can even search your pending. If it's easier, you can even copy and paste it. So this is mine. So I can also go in and update my configuration. So what I'm going to do is I'm going into my configurations and I'm putting my computer into kiosk mode. I'm also forgetting the first 089EB. So I'm building a new configuration. So you can build it, you can call it, I'm going to call this Jacqueline's computer. I'm going to put it in kiosk mode. And then if there was a revenue center I could choose from, it would be here. This organization does not have it set up, but this would be how you can update it to be a kiosk if you get the roadblocks that I'm getting. Since they don't have a kiosk set up as well, I am unable to actually show you how to adjust kiosks, unfortunately. But what you would do to adjust your kiosk configuration is you would tap Order Now, and then you would tap the revenue center name at the top of the screen. So let me go into my point of sale. So you would tap this at the top of the screen in the menu itself. So at the top left-hand side, tap that 7 times. And then there is a special code. We do have that in our troubleshooting guide. You put the code in, it's 100710. I don't expect you to retain that, but it is in our guide. And then you'll be able to update the configuration and have access to this menu. Other than that, that wraps up today's training. If anybody has questions, feel free to reach out. I am going to send all of these webinars out later on, likely this week, if not next, that we've recorded, as well as all of the help desk information and articles related to quick service point of sale. Thank you, everybody, and have a great day.